Hey everyone, Kyle Walker here. If you love cars, fixing things, or just want to understand your vehicle better, you're in the right place. I share hands-on tips, smart driving advice, and straight-up car talk without the fluff. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stick around till the end. You don't want to miss what's coming up. Let's get into
The
it.
absolute majority of people buying a car, especially an expensive one, is a very responsible step. Taking into account that even being a middle-class person, it takes many years to save up a sufficient amount of money, you do not want to become the owner of a car that will turn out to be quite different from what is described in advertising brochures, car reviews, and just commentators, which today on the internet, a pond of pawns. At all times, the most successful way to try a novelty was personal experience, based on the use of the acquired. With regard to the car, such a method is obviously unsuitable, and therefore there was an alternative service in the form of a test drive, providing a potential buyer of a favorite vehicle to evaluate it. What is a test drive of a car in a car dealership? To put it briefly and succinctly, a test drive should be understood as the provision by a car dealership of a model that a potential buyer likes for a test drive. This procedure allows you to make a preliminary assessment of the performance characteristics of the vehicle, its advantages and disadvantages, and already on the basis of the impressions received to make a final conclusion on the purchase of the tested car. There is one nuance here. There are different configurations, and if you obviously do not have enough money to buy a car with the maximum number of options, you can test such a car. Moreover, this is exactly what you should do. In this case, you will get an idea of how necessary or useless from your point of view certain options are. Many buyers are simply not aware that there is such a service. Others are sure that it is paid, and therefore do not order. Others believe that only very expensive cars are given for a test drive. All these are misconceptions. You need to internalize the following truths. The service of providing cars for test drive is absolutely free of charge. Any car present in the showroom must be made available at the first request of the visitor. All car manufacturers, through their official representatives, oblige dealers to do so. If you are denied a test drive, you can write or call the manufacturer with a complaint against the car dealership that did not provide you with a car for evaluation. Even the worst car dealership should have cars for testing, and if you are told that there are no cars, it is an obvious lie. However, for full-fledged testing of an off-roader, you will probably have few trips on an asphalted track near a car dealership, and a raid on city streets will be uninformative. And to provide a car for testing in field conditions, the majority of dealers are not ready for such actions. Though really self-respecting car dealerships usually equip special sites, where off-road conditions are simulated specially for testing of off-road class cars. But even here there is a good variant of the problem solution. Many official dealers on a periodic basis conduct field test drives. You only need to find out about their dates and sign up in time. What a test drive gives to the driver. Most often the opportunity to test drive a car is used by visitors of a car showroom who are looking for a new car with the purpose of buying it in the near future. Well, or in the medium term. But even if you intend to buy a used car, you should not neglect the opportunity to make a test drive on the same, but a new model, if it is on a test drive in one of the showrooms. If you want to check the work of all systems, and you can do it for free, why ignore such an opportunity? Many car enthusiasts do so, sometimes even abusing it. However, getting a car for a long test drive is much more difficult, and it is he who allows you to identify all the potential shortcomings of the model. But if your intentions are serious, and the cost of the car you like is high, it is worth spending time trying to arrange such a test drive. How necessary a test drive is for a car dealership. And here there is a certain collision. On the one hand, car dealerships are interested in increasing sales, and testing cars is a very good marketing move to achieve their goals. But there is also the other side of the coin, the risk that the car provided to the visitor may get damaged during testing. And while automakers usually compensate for such costs, it's still a nuisance. Nevertheless, car dealerships cannot completely ignore providing their cars for test drive. But to get additional benefits in the form of collecting databases of phone numbers and addresses of potential customers, quite well, which many of them are successfully doing. And it is hardly possible to get a car for testing without filling out a questionnaire with the cell phone number. And as a result, the one who used the opportunity but did not buy a car will receive SMS messages of advertising nature for a long time. What cars are provided for testing? As a rule, car dealerships offer visitors models in almost complete sets, sometimes even installing various additional, optional, equipment on them. From the marketing point of view, it does not make sense to provide cars in the starting kits. That is why they are not available on test drives. There is also a rule that if a particular model is available for sale in several body types, sedan, station wagon, hatchback, only one of them is provided for testing at the discretion of the car dealership. Read also how the car is checked for possible prohibition of registration actions, so it is not uncommon that you will have to compromise. For example, if you are interested in a configuration with a sedan body and an automatic transmission, then in the showroom for test drives allocated a hatchback with an automatic or a sedan with a manual transmission. That is, you do not always get the opportunity to test exactly the option that you like. Although there is always an opportunity to call several salons, the more of them in your city, the greater the probability of success. In small towns with a meager representation of car dealers, it may turn out that the model you are interested in is not on sale at all, or is not available for test drive. It is also worth knowing that on average a test car works as a test car for about a year, having time to drive about 5,000 to 6,000 kilometers. A little about the route for the test drive. In most cases, the test drive is done on a circular route that starts near a car dealership and ends there. In this case, you will be able to drive the test car no more than 3 to 4 blocks. On a relatively free road, such a trip can be made literally for 5 to 10 minutes. But in case of heavy traffic and presence of traffic jams, it can take half an hour, and you will not get an opportunity to test the car in a speed mode. In any case, you should be prepared for limited time behind the wheel, and if you are really interested in buying this model, it is worth thinking over in advance what exactly you want to test and try in operation, and even better, if this list will be in text form in front of your eyes during the test drive. That way you won't forget anything. It should be taken into account that during the test drive the route will be already determined, and you are unlikely to be able to any amateurishness. So even in an SUV, you will have to drive exclusively on asphalt. What will be required of you for the test drive? The algorithm of how to take a car for a test drive is simple. Book a test drive at the appointed time, come to the salon, having with you your driver's license, passport. Your age must exceed 21 years. You must have at least 2 years of driving experience. You can make an order over the phone, and the day, time of the test, and, of course, the model you are interested in are subject to discussion. If you have already come to the showroom and the car you want is available and not occupied, most likely you will not be refused a test drive immediately. Car dealers try to choose weekends for testing, as this is the ideal time for trips. The roads are more or less unloaded, and you will be able to test the car at all speed modes. On weekdays, this opportunity is rarely available, especially in large cities. If you can't make it on the weekend, choose any day, but make sure it's not rush hour, morning, evening. Some salons have specially equipped test sites or tracks located somewhere nearby. If you are offered a trip through the city, it will be a route previously agreed with the traffic police for this very purpose. Since all the systems of the car are usually tested, a perfectly flat highway, in all senses, is not suitable for this purpose. You need potholes and turns. Only in this way you can check the running gear, maneuverability of the car, how dynamic it is, and how fast it brakes. It is no trouble if you are not familiar with this part of the city. The duration of the route is short, and there will be a representative of the car dealer near you. Usually during running in, there are always questions which you can ask to the manager. You can also try to agree with him about testing in more real conditions, for example, for an off-road vehicle, on a dirt road. However, the chances of success are slim, but still. Note also that these short rides are offered to anyone who wants them, as long as the above requirements are met. If the model you are interested in is a very expensive one, it is not excluded that you are allowed to test it for several days without a representative of the car dealership. But such an opportunity is offered only to regular customers who buy a new car relatively often. The service is still free of charge, but you will have to pay for an insurance policy. Without it, the car will not be given for a long test drive. However, if you manage to convince managers of your solvency and firm intentions to make a purchase, it may be enough to make a positive decision. Representatives of the following professions have very high chances. A journalist working for a well-known publication, a professional. Photographer, provided that he undertakes to shoot the selected model with a public display of the collection, a representative. Of a large company wishing to purchase several cars. A marketer who has the opportunity to promote the salon in any way, a famous. Media personality, politician, artist, sportsman. In short, you must be useful to the dealership. Briefly about the registration procedure. In no case should it be assumed that providing a car for testing is a purely formal procedure. In any case, before the test drive, you will be asked to fill out some paperwork and present a license with an open, valid, Category B. We recommend that you carefully study the documents you are offered to sign, especially the clauses on your liability in case of unintentional damage to the car. It should be noted that even within the same dealership, the text of such agreements may vary greatly. In any case, you should not treat it formally, if your intentions are quite formed. Read also, principles of proper parking near the crosswalk. You need to be prepared that you can also refuse, even if you want to test a budget model. Of course, the representatives of the salon should argue their decision. Here is a list of typical reasons for refusing a test drive. You are not the right age, officially allowed, 21 years old, but in some dealerships reinsure and set a higher bar, for example, 24 to 25 years old, lack of 2 years of driving experience, quite a reasonable requirement, unsuitable weather conditions, heavy snowfall, icy roads, etc. The dealer's representative doubts that you are a potential buyer. In fact, this is a clear violation of your rights, but, unfortunately, not everyone is ready to challenge such a decision, guided by your appearance or even your manner of communication. If the salon visitor is in a drunken state, if the customer himself says that he just wants to drive the car he likes, without confirming his intentions to purchase it, the requested model is not on the list, is in the repair shop, or is currently occupied by another tester. The list, of course, is incomplete. Different car dealerships may use other reasons for refusal. In such cases, you always have an opportunity to take a test drive in another place. If, in your opinion, the reasons for refusal are subjective and untrue. Rules and recommendations when taking a test drive. Each car dealership presents its own set of rules to those wishing to take a test drive, which may look as follows. The car leaves the showroom under the control of the manager. The client gets behind the wheel later. The attendant is in the front passenger seat. For the entire duration of the test drive requires compliance with all safety rules, including wearing a seatbelt. The tester is required to be as neat and collected as possible. The customer is solely responsible for following the rules of the road. It is forbidden to intentionally damage the test vehicle. The customer must take into account the advice and instructions of the salon representative. It is forbidden to use an aggressive driving style. The customer must be polite with the attendant. If a representative of a car dealership asks you to refuel for your money on the way, do not agree. You should not care about such problems. Your business is to drive and enjoy the trip. And lastly, some useful recommendations. If the roads are wet and you are offered to test when they dry up, this should be alarming. Most likely, it is not a matter of fear of dirtying the vehicle. Perhaps, in this way the representatives of the car dealership want to hide any shortcomings from you. If you plan to buy a test copy, for example, if it is the only one, remember that the purchase of a car provided for a test drive is made with a significant discount. Do not agree to testing at the car dealer's site either. It is unlikely to satisfy you in terms of checking all the characteristics of the test car. If the attendant during the trip is talking nonstop, in this way he wants to divert your attention from the test. Perhaps, in order to hide the shortcomings of the model, remember that insurance is not required for short rides. Such demands are illegal, but the car provided for test drives must be insured. Demand to see the policy, otherwise you will be responsible for any accident. Traffic rules should not be violated in any case. It is you who will be fined, even if the fixation of the violation will be automatic. And now a few tips concerning the test drive itself. Once in the car, adjust the driver's seat to yourself, check the view in the rear view mirrors and adjust their position if necessary. After starting the engine, listen for a while to its operation at idling speed. Do not start abruptly. Drive at a pace you are used to. for confidence, or to demonstrate the capabilities of the car. You can put family members in the cabin. It is not forbidden. Do not get distracted by conversations with those in the cabin, including the manager. Even if it is hot or cold outside, be sure to check the functioning of the climate system, heater, air conditioner, ventilation system, seat and mirror heating. If there is a sunroof, check it, as well as the operation of the multimedia center, wipers and other equipment. Before or after the trip, check how the trunk, hood, all doors of the car open. Check that there are no squeaks or other extraneous noises when driving. But the main advice, do not hurry to buy a car if you feel uncomfortable in it. There is no need to be afraid to scratch or damage the test car. It is already insured, up to the damage in case of catastrophic natural events. If the unpleasantness during the trip still happens, do not sign any papers related to compensation of damage. It is illegal. And lastly, if the employees of the salon see that you are not a very determined person, they may offer a test drive with a manager as a driver. Do not agree to such an option. You personally have to feel the car. In conclusion, taking a car for a test drive is an essential step in the car buying process. By following the tips we've discussed, such as preparing a checklist, assessing comfort and visibility, and evaluating performance, you can make an informed decision. Remember to take your time, ask questions, and trust your instincts. A test drive is not just about the car, it's about finding the right fit for your lifestyle. Happy driving!